You ever say something, and suddenly she goes silent, but not in a bad way. Her eyes soften, her smile lingers a bit longer, and for the rest of the night, she keeps replaying your words in her mind. Let me tell you this, what you say, and how you say it, can etch itself into a woman's heart far deeper than any touch ever could. Most men miss it, but you won't, not after today. Because there is one sentence, one moment, one truth you can speak that will make her think of you long after the conversation ends. And here's how to get there. Confidence is one of those things that doesn't need a loud entrance. It doesn't walk into a room screaming, demanding attention. It just is. And the funny thing is, women can sense it before you even say a word. It's in how you walk. It's in how you hold your gaze, not with force, but with calm. It's in how you speak, slowly, deliberately, like you're not in a rush to be heard because you already know you're worth listening to. Most men confuse confidence with bravado, with overcompensating, with making noise and puffing out their chest. But real confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It's the unshakable belief in who you are, even when nobody's watching. When a woman meets a man who carries that energy, something inside her stirs. Not because he's showing off, but because he's showing up. She's not just listening to what he says, she's feeling the space he holds when he says it. It's in the way he doesn't try too hard to impress. He's not bending over backwards to gain approval. He's not anxious to fill every silence. In fact, he lets silence sit. He welcomes it, and in that space she leans in, because she can feel something deeper. You see, when you speak from a place of quiet confidence, every word carries more weight. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to dominate the conversation. In fact, sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is very little, but say it like it matters. Like you've thought about it, like you don't just speak to be heard, you speak to connect, and that level of self-assurance, that calm, collected presence, it's magnetic. It makes her feel safe. It makes her feel curious. It makes her wonder, what does he know about himself that the others don't? Confidence is also about being comfortable with rejection. You're not begging for her attention. You're not auditioning for her affection. You're offering yourself, fully, authentically, and without apology. And if she doesn't respond the way you hoped, you're okay, because your value wasn't tied to her reaction. That kind of confidence, the kind that isn't shaken by approval or rejection, creates an emotional shift in her. She realizes that you're not here to take from her, you're not trying to fill a void, you're not pretending, you're simply present, and that is rare. Most women are used to being pursued by men who are driven by insecurity, not intention. They can sense the difference instantly, so when she comes across a man who knows who he is, who isn't rattled by her silence, who doesn't flinch when she tests him a little, she pays attention. She starts to notice the little things. The way you look at her when she speaks, the way you pause before you answer, the steadiness in your energy, the groundedness in your tone, it feels different, it feels intentional, it feels safe. A lot of men think the quickest way to a woman's heart is through compliments about how she looks. You're so beautiful, you've got the nicest smile, your eyes are stunning. And yes, those things can be sweet, but they're also expected, they're everywhere, they're generic. After a while, they blend into background noise. What she's really craving is for someone to see beyond all that, to look past what everyone else sees and touch something much deeper, her soul, her essence, the part of her that's rarely noticed, rarely acknowledged, and often hidden behind layers she's learned to put up just to protect it. When you compliment her for the way she thinks, for how deeply she cares, for the kind of energy she carries into a room, now you've entered a different space with her, a space most people never reach. Because most don't take the time. They're too busy admiring what's on the outside, never realizing that what leaves the most lasting impression is the woman she is when no one's watching. When you tell her, there's a strength in the way you carry yourself. I noticed it the moment you walked in. She pauses, she hears that, not just with her ears, but with her heart, because now you're speaking to something she's worked on, something she's grown into, something she probably didn't even know was visible. And that's the magic. It's not about flattery. It's about seeing her, seeing what others overlook. When you say you think differently, in a way that challenges me, or I love how passionate you get when you talk about things you care about, you're showing her that you're not like the rest. You're showing her that you've actually been paying attention. And for a woman who's used to being admired only for her curves or her face, that kind of attention is refreshing. It's unexpected. It hits differently. Think about it. How often has someone truly told her, "I admire the way your mind works"? How often has someone said, "There's something powerful about your spirit, not just you're sexy or you're cute, but you inspire something in me I can't explain"? That's the kind of compliment that makes her sit with it, that replays in her head hours later, that makes her smile to herself when she's alone, wondering why you, of all people, made her feel that way. Because what you did, without her even realizing it, was speak life into parts of her that were silently begging to be recognized. And it's not about manipulation. It's not about strategy. It's about presence. It's about honesty. It's about being a man who sees with more than his eyes. When you acknowledge the fire in her, the softness in her, the uniqueness in her, you create a moment, a real, intimate, unforgettable moment that stays with her long after the conversation ends. There's a power in a man who knows how to express himself without falling apart. A man who doesn't run from emotion, but also doesn't let emotion run him. That balance is rare, and when a woman sees it, something shifts. Because emotional fluency isn't about crying on command or pouring your heart out just to prove you feel something. It's about knowing what you feel, why you feel it, and choosing the right moment to express it in a way that's real, not reckless. It's the difference between being emotionally honest and emotionally messy. And the truth is, women are drawn to men who can go there, not all the time, not in excess, but with intention. When you say something like, "I don't usually talk about this, but I feel like I can trust you with this part of me," it does something. It softens her. It opens up a doorway she didn't expect, because now it's not just surface-level conversation. You're letting her into your world, but not dumping everything on her. You're showing her that you're human, layered, complex, but you're also grounded in that. You're not unstable. You're not unraveling. You're choosing to be real, and that kind of vulnerability wrapped in strength. It's unforgettable. Most men are either too guarded or too open, swinging from one extreme to the other. But when you're emotionally fluent, you know how to sit with your feelings, understand them, and communicate them in a way that's clear and calm. You don't need to be dramatic to be deep. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. And you definitely don't need to hide what you feel just to appear strong. Real strength is when you say, "That moment meant a lot to me," or "I felt something shift between us, and I don't want to pretend I didn't." Those words might seem simple, but they carry a kind of weight that sticks with her. It tells her that you're not emotionally disconnected. You're aware, you're tuned in, you're not afraid to be seen, not just in your logic or your achievements, but in your truth. And when you're able to articulate that truth clearly, it makes her feel like she's with someone who can navigate life, not just in actions, but in emotions. Because let's be real, connection isn't built on perfection. It's built on understanding, and when a man shows he understands himself, he's more capable of understanding her. There's something deeply attractive about emotional maturity, not the kind that overshares or seeks attention, but the kind that listens more than it speaks. That takes responsibility for its feelings. That doesn't project or blame or run. When you say, "I've been through things that taught me to guard myself, but talking to you feels different," it lands. It lands because it's not about being emotional. It's about being present with your emotions, and that presence, it makes her feel seen, heard, and safe in ways words can't always explain. There's something irresistible about mystery. It's not about being distant or hard to read, it's about holding something back just enough to keep her curious. Because when you give everything too soon, when every thought, every emotion, every story is laid out right away, there's nothing left for her to discover. And women don't fall for men who reveal everything in one sitting. They fall for the ones who leave space for imagination, the ones who make her want to lean in, to ask more, to wonder what else is behind that calm voice and knowing smile. It's not about playing games, it's about presence. It's about creating depth by allowing parts of you to unfold slowly. When you say, "There's more I could say, but maybe I'll tell you next time," you're not dodging the moment. You're crafting it. You're letting her know there's more to you, without trying to sell it all up front. That subtle suggestion, that little pull back, creates a thread she'll keep tugging at in her mind. It makes her think about what you didn't say, and those unsaid things, they become echoes in her memory. Most men think they need to impress women with stories and bold declarations. But the truth is, what stays with her isn't the story, it's the silence between the lines. The way your eyes shift when you mention something personal, the way your voice lowers when you speak about your past, but then change the subject like it's not something you talk about often, those little things become big in her mind. They become questions. Why did he pause right there? What's the story behind that look? That's how interest is born, not from constant talking, but from selective revealing. The power of mystery lies in restraint, in knowing that you don't need to prove anything, that your worth isn't in oversharing, it's in owning your space. When you show her glimpses of who you are, real, honest glimpses, but leave her wondering what else is there, you give her a reason to come back. A reason to think about you when the conversation is over. A reason to wonder if she's the one who'll get to see the parts of you no one else does. And it's not about pretending to be complicated. It's about being intentional with your words. Being mindful of timing, understanding that the slow burn always lasts longer than the quick spark. When you're too available emotionally, mentally, and even verbally, it can feel like there's nothing left to explore. But when you carry yourself like a man who doesn't give away everything to just anyone, it creates a quiet magnetism, a pull, a tension, and tension, when handled with maturity and self-control, keeps her up at night, not stressed, but stirred. Stirred by the idea of you, by the thought that there's more to discover, more to unfold, more to feel, piece by piece, moment by moment. Most people look at others and define them by where they've been, what they've done, what's happened to them, the labels they carry, the mistakes they've made. But when you look at a woman and speak to who she's becoming, not just who she's been, something deep within her awakens. Because more than anything, women want to be seen in their evolution. They want to know they're not stuck in a chapter they've outgrown. That someone sees not only their past but the fire pushing them toward their future. And when you're the one who recognizes that in her, who speaks to the highest version of her even before she fully sees it herself, you don't just touch her heart, you touch her soul. She might be used to being reminded of her flaws. Maybe people only bring up her past choices or label her based on old wounds. Maybe she's carried shame around silently, wondering if anyone will ever see past it. But then you come along and say something like, "I admire the woman you're becoming. The way you're growing, it's powerful." In that moment, everything shifts, because now you've given her something to hold onto that's bigger than her regrets. You've spoken life into her journey, and that kind of affirmation is rare. And it's not about flattery or saying what you think she wants to hear. It's about truly observing her and acknowledging her growth. Maybe you notice how she chooses peace instead of drama now. Maybe you see how she holds herself with more confidence than before, or how she speaks up for herself, even when it's hard. When you name those things and reflect them back to her, you're telling her, "I see you. I see the work you're doing. I see the strength you're building." And that kind of recognition is more valuable than any compliment on her appearance. When you connect with a woman on the level of her potential, you invite her to rise. You become someone she doesn't just feel attracted to, but inspired by, because you're not focused on where she's been, you're focused on where she's going. You become a mirror of possibility, someone who reflects back the best in her, even when she can't fully see it yet, and that builds trust. That builds a sense of emotional safety, the kind that makes her open up in ways she doesn't with everyone. So instead of saying, "You're perfect," say, "I love how you're becoming more of yourself." Instead of saying, "You've got it all together," say, "I respect how you keep growing, even when no one sees the effort." These words, spoken with sincerity and clarity, hold power. They plant seeds, and those seeds take root in the quiet moments, when she's alone, reflecting, wondering if who she's becoming is truly seen. And then she remembers your voice, your words, and the way you made her feel not judged, not measured, but deeply, beautifully seen. There's a difference between saying something just to fill the silence and saying something because it matters. When you speak with intention, when every word carries weight, it changes everything. Women can tell when you're just going through the motions, when your words are empty or rehearsed. But they can also feel when you're being genuine, when what you say comes from a place of truth deep inside you. That kind of sincerity isn't learned overnight. It's born from self-awareness, from knowing yourself well enough to speak clearly and honestly. It means looking her in the eye and letting her see the real you, without masks, without pretense. Intentional speech means you don't just talk to impress or to be liked. You talk because you have something real to say. Maybe it's a feeling, maybe it's a thought, maybe it's a truth you've kept inside, and you say it with care because you understand the power your words hold. You know they can build or break, heal or hurt, connect or create distance. When you say, "Being around you feels different, in a way I can't quite explain, but I don't want it to stop," it's not a line you pull out of nowhere. It's a moment of honesty wrapped in vulnerability. You're telling her that what she brings out in you is something rare, something worth holding on to. There's something magnetic about that kind of honesty. It invites her to drop her guard, to meet you in that space of realness. And it shows her you're not afraid of what you feel or what might come next. You don't overthink it. You don't play games. You just speak, knowing that the right words, said at the right time, can resonate long after you've said them. It's the difference between fleeting conversation and lasting connection. Mean every word you say because she can feel if you don't. If your eyes don't match your voice, if your tone wavers or your body language contradicts you, she'll pick up on it instantly. And once doubt creeps in, it's hard to pull her back. But when your words, your eyes, your whole presence align, you create an atmosphere where she feels safe enough to be herself, to let down her walls, to hold on to what you've just shared. That's how you become unforgettable. Intentional communication isn't about perfection. It's about authenticity. It's about choosing your words with care, but also trusting the moment enough to let your heart speak. Because at the end of the day, what makes her think about you all night isn't a rehearsed speech or a clever line. It's the truth you dare to say once, fully and sincerely, and that truth will echo in her mind long after you're gone. In a world full of men who say too much and mean too little, be the one who speaks once and leaves a lasting mark. You don't need the perfect line. You need the right truth said with the right energy at the right moment. That's what she'll remember. That's what she'll replay. That's what will make her think of you all night. Because when you speak from the soul, you don't chase her thoughts. You become them.